All right. So welcome, guys. Welcome to today's class. Today we'll just review the assessment that I gave to you guys during the weekend. All right. So the task was to create a functional component. How many of you can see my screen? Text box, just respond in the text box. And you can hear me clearly. All right, so the task was create a React application using Vite, develop a functional card component that accepts a name, age, location, and hobbies as props, and display this information. Allow multiple card components to be rendered. Please, whose mic is on? Please mute yourself. Allow multiple card components to be rendered with different information for each. Please, I'm not sure I'll accept random or muting of the mic. I don't think you have. All right, please be careful so that we don't have a rowdy class. Thank you so much. All right, let's move. Let's just move, get right to it. So first step, let's create our React application. So we say npm invite. So let's call it week 2 to assessment. Then we're going to work with React. I want to use JavaScript. All right, so pardon me, I would like to open the folder directly. Okay, are you guys with me? Are we together? Please, as I'm working, I would advise, please complete. I would advise that just follow me. What I do it like it needs to be practical for you to actually understand this stuff, right? You need to work it out on your own and also see it work. Even if you are following me, if you are doing it on your own VS Code, you will understand it better when you see it in action, when you see it actually working on your own end, right? And that way too, you also be able to get insightful questions because you be able to know the particular spots that you're having issues, and then you'll be able to ask questions that can give you better clarity. Obioma, I see you. How are you doing? Please, I don't want these children crying on the call again. Today, our artist is not in class. Is our artist in class? Okay, yeah, so let's go. This will take like a minute. Let's give it a couple of seconds to run. Okay, so while that is running, Obioma, did you do the assessment? Okay, you had challenges with your PC and you couldn't do the assessment. Okay, I hope you're fixing your issue. Okay, good. So we have our React application running right now. What are you installing? Okay, Lois, I'm installing React, just our normal process for installing React. All right, are you there? Are you following? Lois, respond quickly, please, so that we can move. All right, so I'll go ahead and create our component. So we are supposed to create a card component, right? So let's have a folder called components. And let's create our card, custom card, JSX, right? Okay, so I hope this did not confuse anybody. What I just did not confuse anybody. Did anybody get confused? No. Okay, so you all know what this does. All right, good. So I just use the default template for React components. All right. So now we want to create, first thing we want to display on our card is, let's say a H1 or a H2, where we will display, we'll display our name feature for this card, right? So for this name now, since it's a prop, we're not just going to pass name here. We're not going to write anybody's name. We're rather going to pass name. So you see that it is deprecated, right? Because it is not called anywhere. We have not actually done anything with name. So what I'll do, I'll come here and I'll define that name. We haven't passed the name in yet, but I have defined it as a prop here. So this name now is not a prop that we are going to be expecting to come from anywhere we are going to use this card component. Are you following? Please, when I ask, just quickly, one or two people just, good. All right, so the next thing we want to display is the age, right? Based on the question. So let's use like a p tag to display the name, the age. So let's say age is going to be equals to age. Now, the same thing happens with age. Age is not defined, so we want to define it as a prop. So we define it here as a prop. This is destructuring. We are destructuring this whole stuff because we want to get it from another place, right? I think you guys already understand what destructuring is. I explained that in our last class. So we now go for the location. Location, we'll call it location. All right. And then we can now pass this to locate to props. Okay. Then now we have hobbies. So I'll start with define this hobby like this before I actually use another method that we will look at in this class. So let's say hobbies. So hobbies is going to be a list apparently, right? So we want to define a list for hobbies. So let's say maybe you want to use an unordered list, right? So we can have this. So the hobbies here, reading, blah, 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 right? But we want to have different hobbies displayed here. So there's a method we use for handling that, right? Because if we want to pass props now, we don't want to pass hobbies, hobby one, hobby one, then do hobby two, right? Oh, thank you, my dear. Okay. Or do hobby two. Just focus on the functionality. Don't worry about the spelling. We can handle that another day. Or you can correct it on your end. Hobby 2, and then let's say hobby 3. So yes, we can pass all these hobbies like this, right? But it's repetitive, right? It's repetitive code. So it doesn't make sense writing 1, 2, 3, whereas you can just have them in a list, right? Have them as a list and then pass that list. I don't know, do you people understand what for each is in JavaScript? I think you all should. Before you are in this class, you should understand what for each does. Exactly. So repetition defeats the whole concept of React, which is why there is a method called mapping, a method called map. So now this map, if we want to use yes, exactly. So if we want to use the mapping now, we are going to say, instead of defining each of them separately, we are going to use one list tag, and then we are going to say, map hobbies. So no matter the number of hobbies that we have, we want to display all of them. So map hobbies, pick each of the hobby, right? Use the index. We want to use the index as our key. Then we call this. So now we now say list. Good. We now say list hobbies, right? Who doesn't understand what I just did? Okay. Okay, so we have some people who don't understand. Obioma and Uchenna and Abubakar. Okay, so let me explain this now, right? So this is what happens when you map. So when you map, you are saying these hobbies is definitely going to be an array of an array that has properties, right? Now this array is going to contain reading as many hobbies as you want, right? So now we want to use this method, this mapping method now. What we use this to do is we are spreading these hobbies, right? And we want to display each hobby as we iterate through the list of hobbies, right? We want to display each hobby in one list tag. So now what this does is it displays this list tag multiple times. As many hobbies as you have, it will multiply this list tag and display each list tag for each hobby. So what would have done like this now? What would have done like this, right? This code, this mapping automatically does it for us. It just displays um each of the hobby. It displays it over in different list tags. Maybe you will understand what I mean if when we actually use this components. So let's just move forward and utilize the component. So you understand this now? Yeah. So yeah, description, yeah. Creates a new array from calling a function for every array element. Yes, exactly. So check out the results that Faith just dropped. You will understand how mapping works better. So for now, let's go on with the class. All right, so now we have this component. It would be ideal that we give it some styling, right? But let's just allow it let's do some styling actually. So I'll just do one styling, and I'm going to do the styling inside here. Now, I don't advise for styling in here, because we're not actually going to be using this method of styling, but I'm sure you guys have done something like this in JavaScript. So I'm just going to define the style. Yeah, and then I'm going to call it card style. Right, then, so this is CSS in JavaScript. So I'm going to say const card style. So I'm going to define all the styling I want here. So I want, yeah, I think I want border to be white. Let's use the white border. And then make margin background. Let's give it background of black. I think I have a background already. Background. Okay, so we'll give a background of white and a border radius, take it back to black. Okay, then border radius, let's give it 10 px. Then background, yeah, okay, color, yeah. Box shadow, do we necessarily need that? No. Okay, so let's go with this. All right. Acknowledge if you're following what's happening here. If you are lost, let me know. All right, so let's see what this following. All right, good. So we have this component. We have not used this component. So yes, nothing is going to display on the DOM. It's just still the React stuff that's still here, right? So let us utilize the app.js to implement our card and visualize it, right? So first thing is I'll remove everything that we're not using, right? Then we can just go right ahead and implement our code. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, because I've explained what mapping does already, I'm going to go straight and just create an object, an array of objects. I'll create an array of objects called const cards data, right? So this is where I want to store all the card data that I want to display. So let's assume I have I want to display 3 cards, right? I'll come here and define those cards. Let's say name John Doe. All right, that's one. Yeah, so we have this now. So you see that we have, from what we just created, we have an object here that contains the name, the age, the location, and then hobbies, a list, right? Okay, yes, let's enjoy John Doe for now. So yeah, so we have a list and we can duplicate this. Maybe since we don't want to use too much of John Doe, let us call Jane into the picture. And then let us also use Sam Wilson. Okay. So let's say Wilson is 35 years and Smith is 25, right? Are you following? Are you guys following? So this is just a simple array that I created, right? That we'll use to display on our card. So let's go ahead and call our card in now. So first things first, let me change this to div. Let's not use that. Okay, so we'll call our custom card. So I import custom card and then I close it. So as it is right now, there's the chance that we can have a display of the custom card, but we are not because we don't have any content in the custom card at the moment. You see that all the props are empty, so it cannot display anything at the moment. But when we come here and we now say name prop, we want name to be equals to Peter, and then we want age to be equals to 50. And we want well, since we're using the number here. Yeah, so we want hobbies to be equals to maybe reading, playing. Yeah, so let's use just two. So now with this component, the way it is now, we should have a display on our DOM, everything being equal. So let us see why we are not having a display on our DOM. So we're getting an error that said hobbies.map is not a function. So we come back here and we do this. What happened there? All right, so good. So our card has displayed. Are we okay? Do we understand what's happening? Are we good? All right, so we're having just one card at the moment, right? But there's a chance that we want to display, the assessment was display more than one card. So all we'll do now is all we need to do now is display for each card, right? So we are going to use the mapping system again to work this card. So what will we do? I'll need to remove all this first, right? And then remove this and remove this. Okay, so we are now going to say map card data and then for each card, let's use the index as a key. Okay, and then we cover our. All right, so this the same mapping system that we used before. So what we are going to say is we want to display card.name, and then we want to display card.age, right? And then we want to display card.hobbies. So we are missing one, I think location. So we say we want to display card, not location. Are we together? Anybody has a question? Any question? All right, good. So we have the card data, right? We have implemented the card data now we have mapped the card data into our card component. So now for name, right, it is going to display this card for every name, right? So we are supposed to get 3 cards, and for each of these 3 cards, because of this mapping that we've done, we are going to have the first name is going to be in the first card, the first age will be in the first card, same, likewise the location, likewise the hobbies, right? And then for the second card, it will do the same thing again. So that way, we will now have 3 cards displayed on the DOM. Is there anyone that doesn't understand what just occurred? Any questions? Lois, are you clear? Josephine? Josephine, are you clear? Yes, exactly. So it displays based on the number of arrays that are in that number of objects that are in that array, right? Abubakar. So you see the 3 hobbies are appearing here now: sports, cooking, gaming. Why they are appearing like this is because we are now passing for hobbies here. We are passing an array. Do you follow? We are passing an array for hobbies. So as far as we are passing an array, inside card component, when we receive the array called hobby, we now map it. The same mapping system. We map it into the hobby list. We have an unordered list here that we are mapping it into, right? So what that does is it would map and display all 3 of the hobbies under hobbies. Good. So that's prop. That's why prop is so important, because now you see that we're even passing down a whole array of a whole array into the card component. Passing this whole array now as props, and we can still map through this array inside our card component. I'm sure that's something you guys should really be excited about, right? So if that's why props are so important. Using props now, you don't need to define everything all over again in the child component, because apparently, based on this implementation, this card is the child component to app.js. So after defining this data here, we don't need to redefine this data again inside the card component, because we have this data all defined here. Kindly scroll up so I see the card style. Because okay, you want the card style, you can actually use your own style and define your own style, right? You can make your card look the best way possible by defining your own style. You can even style each of the elements, each of these tags, to how you want them to appear, right? Are you following? Udo, is that okay? All right. So who doesn't understand the concept of mapping and props generally? Please, let's make it snappy. Just raise your hand and ask your question. Adaobi, do you understand what's happening here? Are you clear? Janet, unmute your mic and speak.
Yes, I'm clear.
Adaobi, just text. Adaobi, text. Janet, unmute and speak.
Hi, good afternoon, sir. Okay, so
My question is this: the card data must it be inside that app .js? Like
Well,
if I
it depends on how you want to do it, because for me, I can create a utils folder, right? Where I want to save things like this kind of data, right? And I can create a JS folder called fake data, right? .js. And then that, my card data, this card data, I can move this data and place place it in this component and export it as a model. Do you understand? So now this card data now is a model that I can import into my app.js. So if I come here, all I need to do is import app data. Do you understand? Yes, you can also create a JSON file and call it as an API. Yes, or even just export it. But for JSON files, it's more like for the way I do, I like to use GitHub, create it as a raw file, and then I can now call it as an API from GitHub, right? We'll get to all that part eventually. So let's utilize this index, right? So what we use index for is to give a key, because when you are mapping, it's ideal that each property, each object like this should have like a unique identifier, right? So ideally, we are supposed to give each of them an ID of say 1, right? Do the same for this one, give it an ID of 2, and then can give this an ID of 3, right? So now what this does, right, is, excuse me. So what this does now is, you can, if I have this ID now, where I'm using my data, I can decide to say, I won't use this. I won't even call the index here. I will just use card.id as my unique identifier. Do you understand? So each of the cards should be able to be differentiated from the other card, not via the data, because if you want to use name to differentiate, right, there's a high chance that this John Doe, a lot of people can bear John Doe as their names, right? I've seen a lot of people bear the same name. 5 people can be from the same location, right? Everybody can be 30 years old at the same time. Are you following? All of you on this call can accidentally have the same, just like we have here, can have the same hobbies, but you cannot have the same ID. Are you following? Good. So you can't have the same ID, which is why we most times use ID as a unique identifier. But in cases where there's no ID, right? We don't have ID to identify each of them. We then use index. So using the index now there is like saying we are picking them based on the index that they exist in, which is also very, very unique, right? Because no two objects can reside on the same index. Are you following? Quickly, please, response. All right. So based on this now, we can either use index here, right? Or we can take if the data coming in has an ID, we can take our ID directly from the data and define and use it as our unique identifier. All right. So is there anybody that is not clear with what we have right now? So you see, we're having this error. Child in a list should have. Now, who knows where we're having this error? This is what I just finished explaining. unique identifier, unique key. Who knows where we're having this issue right now in our code? The hobbies, exactly. So inside the card component, right, we don't have any, we are not actually utilizing the index to define the unique identifier. So if we come here and we say key index, if we come here, we won't have that error anymore. Let's refresh and see. So you see, it's not magic, right? It's like real life stuff. Exactly. Yeah. So once you do everything you need to do appropriately, it should give you the right result. So even for hobbies, there's a possibility that we can have hobbies as different objects and give each hobby an ID. So that when we are mapping, we can use that ID as a unique identifier, right? So we can do, that means if ID is not specified, index should be used. And if index is not specified, so index is like natural. So index, you can always use index, right? Even when you have ID, most people still use index because the index there, the computer handles the indexing by itself. There's a chance that when you are giving IDs to your data, you can mistakenly give two objects. Let's say you can give two objects the same ID. Like I mistakenly give John Doe ID of 1, right? And I make an error of giving Jane the same ID, then give this one ID of 2, right? If we come to our console, we should experience the same error. Okay, so why we are not experiencing that error is because we are using index. Yes, so we are using index. So let's say card.id, right? So we should have that error. So you see what we are looking at here. Encounter 2 children with the same key, 1, right? This will not affect your rendering, okay? But it is an issue. You will get a warning that this is not how things are supposed to be done. Keys should be unique so that components maintain their identity across updates. Are we following? Johnson, does that answer your question? Good. So it's not like there's no blueprint for using index or using card. All I'll say is if you are going to be using an ID in your data, make sure you are um, or you attend to details properly. Make sure that your IDs are properly set. You have each ID is representing a particular object to make sure that when you are displaying, you are not displaying them using one ID for 2 or using one. Some people can even make the error of using one ID for up to 5 different objects, right? Especially when the data is plenty, when you are the one creating the data and it's a lot, right? But ideally, when you are getting data from the backend, they have a method of creating unique identifiers, unique IDs for each data, right? So it is easier when using the backend. You don't have issues. All you need to do is use the ID, right? Exactly. Index in map, the index of the current element. Yeah, the index. So you understand what that means. I think Faith is actually helping you guys out in the chat box. So thank you, Faith, for being resourceful. So can we move forward? Are we good? I want to see how we can do one more thing before. So I'm not going to do a lot of explanations because what I want to do now, I just want us to test out uh, another case study with the same implementation, right? So let's create a to-do list quickly. So I'll come here and I'll create a new file, a new component, and I'll call it to-do item .jsx, right? So for this item, we are going to have a list. Are we together? I'm going to create a list. Right? And then I'm going to do some styling for it. Okay, so we're going to do ask text. Okay, are we together? So the prop we are using here, I'm going to use tags as the prop, right? So tags here is going to contain a text element that we are going to display here. So nothing to get confused about. It's just the same method of, so we are going to say, I'm going to use style. Yeah, so we want to do, what I want to do with this style is, I want to do a decoration on this text. If my task is complete, I want a particular decoration to happen. If it is not complete, I want another decoration to occur, right? So in this case, I will now say, when this task dot complete, so when this task, yeah, is complete, I want to put a line across the text. But if it is incomplete, I want to put none, right? I don't want any text decoration if it is not complete. Is it clear? Is this styling clear? Please, let's respond. Yes, yes, I'm doing conditioning that. I'm conditionally running that. So are we together? All right, good. So I'll now add an on-click event here. So we are still going to pass this on-click as the like what we are going to utilize to handle this on-click. We are going to pass it as props. So I'm going to say this arrow function toggle complete. Good. And I want to do it based on the index. Are you following? Are you guys following me? Do you understand? All right, so we have this. I think our on click is not done. Yes, yeah, okay. So our on click is not supposed to be inside this style, my bad. Okay, so let's move. So I'm going to add some little styling again. So let's say items style. Now I'm going to define the style below here. Item style. All right, so I want to give it padding. And 10px. Border bottom. Okay, let it be white. Let me give it hash CC. Okay, then cursor pointer. So I want to, when I hover my cursor, I want it to be a pointer, right? There is a cursor pointer. I believe we all understand what's happening here. Yeah, bottom. Yeah, thank you. So we all understand what's happening here, right? Okay, Lois, let me hear you. Talk to me.
I wanted to know why you use that three dots on
It's a spread
items.
operator. It's a spread
Yes.
operator. I explained spread in the other class. I think you were in that class. I explained spread. I don't know. I cannot be going back. It's going to slow us down. So just check the previous class where I explained how we utilize spread. Yeah. Are you with me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. So items, right? So we have items and item style, which I have implemented, right? But now we want to use this list. If you notice, right, we are just, this is just the LI. If you notice, there's no UL here. So it's like the item itself that we are doing all this for, right? So now what we want to do is we want to now define the actual to-do list, right? And then from the to-do list, we now pass the tags as props. So we are going to be passing three things as props here. Number one is the task. Number two is this function, because this is a function that we are going to be using to toggle our style, right? So we are going to do toggle, and then we're also going to bring the index because we want to toggle by the index, and we want to define that index inside our to-do list. Are we together? So I will now come here and create another component called the to-do list. .jsx, right? Josephine, is like you're the one that is this artist, so because it's your name I'm seeing on my screen, and you are really, really drawing. If you want to draw, please be creative. I don't want this kind of lines. Okay, so let's move on. Yes, we are. So we want to create a new component, right? And then this component we're going to call, let's just AFCE. AFCE. Okay. Then we want to start by defining our states. So if you notice what we are doing in this class, I'm trying to see how we can consolidate all that we've been learning for a while now into a component and then see how everything comes together, right? So we set task. I hope people have not forgotten what we are doing with use states. I don't have intention of explaining use state again to anybody. So we'll now define the task, right? So the task is going to be initially an empty array. Are you following? Are we following? All right, good. So next step, we want to define our input values because we are going to utilize an input field to handle, or let's just go ahead and implement the input field first. So that we now come back to functionalities. Or which one do you guys prefer? We handle the functions first, then we come down and handle the. Okay, Udo, yeah, speak.
Sir, please, you're fast. While I'm trying to while I'm trying to because I'm working as you're working. While I'm trying to get a hold of something, you've moved on to the next one. So
Okay.
maybe I will just stop working with you and just listen.
Of course.
Or
Okay.
something. I
That
don't know.
works.
Then kindly go back to do item.js. Yes.
Yeah, you
Please,
Lord.
I would love I don't understand what that tax toggle completed. That's from the list that you put style there, and then you're calling the style item the item styles. I need to understand that line. That's from line 6 to 9. And then you called and on click. Now, are we clicking the list? Okay, we're clicking the list to impute the items, right, on
We are
our to-do
clicking, we are
list.
clicking, what we are going to be doing is we are going to be clicking the item itself when we are complete, right? So once we are done with that very item, we want to click on the item itself. And then once we click on the item itself, we want to draw a line over that item. So I think I already showed you guys what these ternary operators do, the whole conditional rendering, right? So what we are just saying here is, if the task is complete, right, display a line on top this text. But if the task is not complete, don't display any. So on creation of this task, it should not carry a line on its body. But when we toggle it, when we click on it, right, it should have this line now. So basically, it's just the same props. We are passing props here. So this toggle is going to be a function that we are going to define inside our to-do list. Then we are passing that function down here as a prop, and then using an on-click event to trigger that function. Are you following?
Yes, yes,
You understand now?
yes.
Good. So all these here are just props that we are getting from the to-do list that we are about to define.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay. You see these tags here now. These tags that are just defined in the use state is a state for the tags, right? This state now is going to be is what we are passing down here as props.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So that's what we're passing here as props. That's what we're going to be displaying inside here. But why is tags? I expected someone to ask, why is it tags here and in our state it is tags, right? Because when we are going to be passing these tags, we are going to be mapping it in. So we are going to be picking only the tags to display. And based on the mapping concept, when we map through this list, it is only going to be picking one tags at a time and display all the tags, right? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. You can drop your hand and let's move quickly. We have entered into another person's time. So let's just move a little bit quickly, if you guys don't mind, right? So since we are going to be using a controlled component, I'm going to create a state for our input value. So let's say input value and set input value and use states. But this should be, yeah, this should be a string. Okay, so we've set our input value and then we have input value. Let's go ahead and create functions now to handle the tags, right? So let's say we want to do const add tags, right? And then using an arrow function, please, once you are lost, you let me know. So I'll say if trim or rather input value dot trim. I want to set tags. Are you with me? I want to set tags. I want to say inside the tags array, I want to spread tags and then add new tags to it. We say text, but we are going to have two properties in this tags, right? So I'll say text should be input, the input value, and then completed initially. When we are creating, completed should be false. And some people might be confused at this point, but I don't see any reason why I should be confused. I think this is like basic stuff that we've been doing. You understand what false and or am I wrong? Don't you guys understand what I mean by the completed state to be false? Eh? Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's move. Yeah, thank you guys. Okay, ask your question, Lois. We have like 4 to 5 or 6 minutes. So you have to be quick. Lois, unmute your mic and speak so that we can move.
Okay, sorry, I was looking for my mic. This task that is inside the to-do list. This task, I thought you called it this one. No, the other one, I thought it's property that you called in this task before you set task. See, this task now comes task, then set task.
This one?
Yeah, that task, that first word there.
This one?
Yes, I thought it's you called it from a to-do item. Sorry.
No, this is where we are defining it. Inside to-do item, it is a prop.
Yeah, I thought it's the property.
So we are defining it here, and then we are going to pass it down to do
but
item.
That one doesn't have plural.
Yes, I explained on this call a few minutes ago. I say why it's so is because we are going to be mapping into this list item. And if we map into list item, we are no more passing down everything, all the tags. We are passing down one tax at a time and displaying that tax on the DOM. Do you understand? You understand what I did with mapping already, right?
I don't understand the mapping.
Good. So we are going to be mapping into this list item. This list item is just a reusable component that I created. I can decide to do this inside the to-do list. But I want to teach you people how to write React the right way. Do you understand? Now, writing React like, yes, what I'm doing now is I am saying, okay, inside here, I'm going to define an ordered list or an unordered list, right? But I'm not going to write the li tag inside this to-do list. All I'm going to do is I'm going to, in the place for the li tag, I'm going to import this to-do item and display it there. Then map all these props into these components.
Okay.
So, yes, so just hold on and see how it unfolds. I think you understand it better when it unfolds. So what I'm doing here is I'm setting this, I'm spreading these tags, and I'm saying, okay, I want to add text as from the input value, right? So the text in this tag should be input value. You know that here, we did not define what the tags will look like. We did not say if the tags is going to be a list of just single properties, right? But now I'm not saying, okay, I want this list, this tags list. I want to open up this tags list, and then I want to attach objects to this tags list. So for every time that I set this tags, I want to add a new object to this tags. And that new object should contain the text as input value, and then completed should have a default state of false. Now, after doing this, I want a situation where I don't want my input field to continue having the same value that was there, which is why I am now setting my input value, set input value to nothing, right? To an empty string. Are we following? Can I go? Can I move? Comments, please. Comments. All right, good. So from here now, we are going to define our next function, which is the toggle function. So let's say const const toggle. Let's use handle toggle complete. Right? And then want to do it with using the index. Want to use index as the argument. So we'll now say const new task be an array. Now I want to spread the tags in it. Right? And then, okay, let's use mapping. Let's say new tags, right? The map. And then we say tags. So don't get confused with the I just used. That is index. Then we want to call it, make it, and then, okay. So now what we want to do is we want to use an if statement now to say if the index, which is I, is equals to the index that we are on at the moment, right? Which is this one, right? We want to return that task, right? That very task in this spread, I'm spreading this task. So I want to return that very task that is inside this task array as complete or as true. Rather, I want to change the complete state to true, right? Sorry. Okay. So this is another method of toggling, right? Complete, is this correct? Complete. Am I using complete? Yeah, I'm using complete. All right. Okay, so give me a minute, let me see. Give me return. Yeah. Good, okay. So, yeah, thank you, Alabi. I just saw your comments. Thanks. So I will now return the new tax. So anybody does not understand what's happening here? You need explanation. Anybody needs explanation? Okay. So after this now, I will now set state to new tax. Then I close my function. So yeah, so what's happening here? We are creating a new tax. For this new tax, we want to map through all the tax, right? So we want to check for the tax of this ID, if this ID of this tax is equals to the index that we are actually clicking on. We want to return that task, and then we want to toggle the complete state to true. Then we want to return that task. Then when we return this task now, then we want to now set our task to the new task array. Who's not clear on that? Hello, please, let's be quick. We have used into people's time so much. Are we good? Do we still have people in this class? Okay, good. All right. Josephine, you're not good. Where are you confused? Okay, what's going to happen is just watch the class again. Watch the class again, you understand better. All right. Yeah. So that we can meet up with time. So what we'll do now, we'll create our to-do component. We'll start our actual to-do list. Right, and then we want to create a div. Then inside this div, I want to have an input field and a button. For yes, so for this button, we want to have an on click for adding tags. You understand what this is doing? This is just triggering this function to create a new task, right? And then it's creating the new task based on the value that we are getting from this input field, right? And then how are we getting this value? We are setting the value using an unchanged event. So for every content that our input has, we are going to take that content using the event, the target dot value, and then we are going to set it to the input value. Then we now pick the actual input value now and pass it as our value for this input field. Now, when we do this now, we can now add tags, and that should be able to add that input value to our tax list, which is this, right? So let's move on quickly. Yeah, I think we're good there. Okay, so I'll create our list where we want to display our tax, right? So we are going to import our to-do item. Good. So if you see, this has already, let me close this so that I can get a better view of what is going on. So as you can see here, this to-do item now that we are calling in here, remember we have three props here, right? We have the tags, we have the toggle completed, and then we have index, right? So now this toggle completed is this function, our handle toggle complete function that we are passing down to this to-do item. Then we're also passing our index. We're passing the index based off the tags here that we are mapping, right? So we are saying for each of these tags index, we want to use that as our index for where we want to, for the on-click event that we are using here to trigger the toggle complete, right? So we now have, we still define our key, yes, very important, because we don't want to confuse our display on the DOM, right? And then we also pass our tags to the, so this to-do list is the same thing as us writing an LI tag here. Do you understand? This to-do item, because within the to-do item, all we have here is the LI tag. So this LI tag now, what we are able to do is make this LI tag a whole component of its own, and then make it reusable. So when we are using it here, we can afford to use this to-do item anywhere that we have a URL and we want to display these our to-do items. Because now it is a reusable component, and we can use it anywhere we want to use it. All we need to do is when we are using it, we should be able to pass the tags that we want to display. We should be able to handle the toggling of the tags, and then we should be able to pass down an index for each of the tags that we want to toggle. Anybody confused? So the display we are going to have is going to be a little bit not styled, apparently, because we're in a hurry. But I would like you guys to do the same tags and add a little bit of styling and make it beautiful, right? So go and follow this class after now. Look at this to-do list and then try to replicate what I have done. Then give it styling. Don't use this method of styling that I used, right? Don't use this method of styling. Use your normal CSS. You can use app.css to do your styling, right? So do that styling, and then I would think you guys will submit that one. I'll create a link that you guys will submit to so that I can actually access that test, right? Okay. So do you all understand what we have done so far? Because I want to now display what we have to the actual DOM, and then we can visualize it. Okay, Udo, go on.
Okay, sir, please, can you just go back to the to-do item.jsx again?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think where I'm getting a bit this thing is this style that you put on the list, because if
Yeah,
we were supposed to style it outside here, what will only be in this list will be the tax.text,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yes, of course. So now
Now,
this is what you need to understand. Yes, you can do this style here, right? Because we're actually using it to define.
okay, so like this style is more or
Now
less
you
like
can
an inline
replicate the way I use
styling.
this style here until we get to actual styling, where I will look at styling in depth.
Okay.
Yeah, so for now, just you can utilize this. Let me just go through this process again. What it's saying here is this one here is checking if it is true or false. Do you
That's
understand?
the question mark there.
Yes, it's checking if it is true or false. So if tags.complete is true, it should use this style, which is line true. Do you understand? And then
Yeah.
if tags.complete is false, it should use this instead.
None.
Do you understand now?
Just like this style of styling. Okay, no problem.
Yes, don't
Then
worry.
the
Look into
then
styling.
yes, then this on click.
Yeah, the on click.
This yes, this assuming this styling was not here, assuming we're not doing an inline styling, what will return will be the on click event and then the
Okay, so
tax.text.
let me not confuse you. You see this line through here. This is what we're going
Yes.
to. Let me not confuse you. Let's just, we don't have time for this shot. Okay, this is what I'll tell you. What you can do is you can actually do this in not in a normal class, like let's say class name, right? You can do the same thing in class name. All you need to do is use backticks, right? And then you can define your style. Are you with me?
Uh,
So you can define your style like this. I would say $sign. All right. So let's assume that your style is text decorate. All right. So let's assume your style is text decoration, right? So you can actually use this in your CSS to style because it is a class name as it is right now. You understand?
Yeah. So you're not getting my question. My question is it uh, what's the word I'm supposed to use? Normal on a normal basis, are we using this style in here because this is the standard, or is
This time
because
you're
we have
talking
not been
about
taught style? No, the style inside the list is
this
more or
one.
less like an inline styling.
This
Yes.
inline styling, of course. We are not using it
Yes.
because of convention. You can, that's why I'm trying to tell you that you can use class to do your styling and still achieve the same result that I achieved with this. Do you get what I'm saying?
Okay.
Is it clear?
Yeah, it's a bit clear, but I'm sure by
No,
the time I
why are
watch
you
it while
style
you
here?
are talking.
So why are you style here? Because you know that CSS, in CSS, normally text decorate is a style in CSS,
Yes. It's
right?
a
So if
property
I
in
use
CS.
style, inline here, I don't need to go to CSS now to now start defining all the styles. All I need to do here now is, okay, say that for text decorate, I want when this thing is complete, I want to display, I want to cross it. When it's not complete, I want to put none. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. Now you
Yes,
can
I
achieve
get
it using a class name, right? Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to do that in
time to
this.
do that. No
But when
wahala.
we look at, I think we'll have a particular class where we'll look at styling so that we can also look at Bootstrap. And in fact, I think we're going to go straight to looking at
Tailwind
right? Exactly. So when we get to that class, I will elaborate on how
on that.
we can utilize this easily in your class component, because ideally it's not even professional to do styling in here, right? But
Okay.
in some cases, yes, we do styling, inline styling. The component is small, like this component is very little. I can do inline styling here and it will not really affect my work, right? I know where this component is. I can come here straight and do my. Why we have external style is because when you have an external style, you know where all your styling is. So you can go to one file and do all your styling editing, right? But when you do inline styling like this, it's scattered, right? So you can have something that you want to change, and then you will need to check through. Let's assume you have a code base that is very large. You will now have to go through thousands of files to find where your style is to edit it, right? So that's why they don't have inline styling is not advised. But in this kind of scenario now, I can use inline styling because, okay, the code base is little, it's easy to access. I can find where I did this styling and easily update it. Okay, so I think that's clear. Let's just display our component quickly so that we can call it a day. So let me display this inside JSX. All right. So let's come here and then I will say div. Then I want to display our to-do list. To-do list here. Okay. So now we are displaying the whole component called to-do list. So we have done everything inside here. We don't need to do anything again inside the app.js. All we are doing using app.js now, we're using it as an entry point for to-do list. So we're just using it to display. So if we come to our DOM, we should, so use state is not defined. Okay. So for where we are using use state, we did not define it. Okay, good. So we should, good. So you see our to-do list is displaying here now. Let me comment out this so that we can properly see what we are doing. Okay. All right. So we have our to-do lists of points. Are we together? Please comment. Okay, all right. So if I come here and I say buy a car and I click on add, You see it has added by a car, right? If I click on, if I come and I say, do my homework, it should add as the next task. Now, assuming I am done buying the car, let's assume that I have blown and I have bought the car, right? I'll come to my to-do list and click on to-do list on that very list. And that one would take the style of the crossing line style, right? It will take the style called line through, right? Yes, so check the chat. Someone has helped you guys with how you can use class name to handle this styling. So now let's assume that I am done with my homework. I can click on it. So let's assume that I remember that I did not actually do my homework. I can come back and toggle it back to false, right? Why is it not toggling to back to false? Hold on. Okay, so we only handled for complete. We did not handle for it should toggle actually. Let us see. All right, so this will be your people's assessment. Replicate this work that I have done in your own version. After I have ticked, after we have selected it as done, we should be able to unselect it. So we should be able to click it again for this action, for this style to be removed, to show that, okay, we were not sure that we're done. So let us leave it open. Maybe I bought the car and then the car arrived and it's not good and I send it back. I want to uncheck this so that I know that I have not actually bought the car. Are you following? Do you understand the assignment? Good. So replicate what we've done, give it nice styling, make it look good. You see how my own is looking? My own is not looking nice at all. So make it look good and then add one functionality extra that when after clicking it done, we should be able to uncheck it. Now, feel free to use a different method for handling this effect. So you can use a checkbox or you can use, you can use a checkbox to handle this, right? No problem. I'll just write it and drop for you guys on Discord if it will help. Okay, so I think with this, we can call it a day. So are you guys satisfied with what you learned today? Are you guys all right? Comments, please, quickly. Yes, okay. For me, yes, go ahead. Feel free to rewatch the class. Get acquainted with the things that we've learned today. We need to still watch the video. Yeah, I know that the concepts we handled in this to-do list were a little bit overwhelming, but it's okay. I'm sure if you go through the class again, you'll be able to understand. Go through the class again. For those who did not really grab the whole concept of spreading, you can research on it, read on spreading in JavaScript, right? And then you'll be able to understand better what we are doing when we do a spread. Yes, get busy, get your hands dirty. That's the best way to learn. Get your hands dirty. So thank you guys. I really appreciate the orderliness in the class. I look forward to meet you guys again on Wednesday.